Your body is keeping a transcript of every thought you've refused to face, every loop of worry, every quiet resentment, every catastrophe you rehearse in the shower. Your tissues are reading the script and staging the play. You've been told stress is bad for you, and you nodded and kept worrying anyway. By the end of this, you'll see why your symptoms aren't random and why changing them starts somewhere you've been avoiding. There's a line carved into one of the oldest spiritual texts the West has ever produced: as above, so below, as within, so without. The Hermetic principle of correspondence. It says the inner world and the outer world are the same pattern repeated at different scales. The mental sets the tone. The physical plays the music. Whatever is happening in your mind is already being rehearsed in your cells. You just haven't heard the recording yet. And here's where most people stop listening. Because if that's true, it means the chronic tightness in your shoulders is more than bad posture. The headaches that arrive every Sunday evening have a relationship with the work week. The gut that flares up the same week your mother visits is doing exactly what gut tissue does when it lives inside a mind that hasn't forgiven her. You already suspect this. You've felt your chest tighten before a difficult conversation. You've watched a stomach knot itself in traffic. You know the inner state writes itself onto the body in real time. The question is, what happens when the inner state never changes? Think about the word chronic. It means repeated, something that happens, then happens again, then keeps happening until the body stops treating it as an event and starts treating it as the climate. Your nervous system is designed to handle a tiger. It's not designed to handle a tiger that lives in your apartment and stares at you every morning while you check your email. That's what a chronic thought is. A tiger you've adopted, so the principle of correspondence is a description of the machinery. The thought you keep returning to becomes the emotional tone you keep marinating in. The emotional tone becomes the hormonal signature your glands keep producing. The hormonal signature becomes the inflammation pattern, the digestion pattern, the sleep pattern, the muscle tension that arrives without you asking. The mind composed it, the body performed it. Same song, 2 octaves. And before you blame yourself, hear this. You inherited most of these thoughts. They were handed to you by parents, who were handed them by their parents. The mental diet you grew up on tasted normal because it was the only food on the table. The corresponding body you walk around in today is the menu, made flesh. But that's the part that gets uncomfortable. Because if correspondence works that cleanly going down, mind into body, thought into tissue, then it also works going up. The body you currently inhabit is telling you, with perfect honesty, what's been living rent-free in your head. Your symptoms are your transcript, and most people would rather take a pill than read the page. Sit with that for a second. The tight jaw, the shallow breath, the fatigue that no amount of sleep seems to fix, the mystery rash, the pressure behind the eyes. Each one is a letter from the version of you that's been ignored for years, asking, politely at first, then less politely, to be heard. Hermetic philosophy asks you to test it. So here's the test. Pick one chronic symptom you've had for months. Just one. Now ask yourself a question most people refuse to ask. What mental pattern have I had for exactly that long? What story have I been repeating to myself? What resentment have I been rehearsing? What version of the future have I been preparing for as if it's already happened? You'll know the answer almost immediately. The body knows. It's been waiting for the mind to catch up. This is where Neville Goddard's work and the ancient Hermetic principle meet in the same room. Goddard said it bluntly: the world is your consciousness objectified. Your assumptions, repeated long enough, harden into the conditions of your life. The body is the first place those assumptions land, long before they show up in your bank account, your relationships, or your career. Your flesh is the closest mirror you own. So when you assume, without ever questioning it, that the world is dangerous, your adrenal glands assume the same thing. When you assume you're safe only while vigilant, your muscles assume the same thing and keep their grip on your spine even while you sleep. When you assume love must be earned through anxious effort, the cardiovascular system runs that assumption 100,000 times a day. You have an assumption problem that the body is loyally executing. And here comes the part that separates the people who heal from the people who collect diagnoses. Once you see this, the temptation is to fix it with the same anxious mind that built it, to force positive thoughts, to affirm yourself into peace at 4 in the morning while clenching your fists, to bully the body into compliance through sheer will. It never works. You can't manufacture correspondence through pressure. Pressure is the disease. What actually works is slower, quieter, and harder than any of that. It's called mental diet. The phrase comes from Emmett Fox, and it's blunt on purpose. You're eating thoughts the same way you eat food. Some are nourishing. Some are poison wearing a familiar costume. And just like you can't out-exercise a bad diet, you can't out-meditate a mind that returns, hour after hour, to the same toxic loop. A real mental diet means catching yourself gently in the act of repeating the thought, and refusing to finish the sentence, refusing to add the seventh layer of commentary on top of the original sting. The first thought is biology. The second is reflex. Every thought after that is rehearsal. And rehearsal is what writes itself into the tissues. Try this for one day. Just one. Notice every time your mind reaches for its favorite worry. And instead of arguing with it, instead of trying to think positive, simply don't pick up the rope. Let the thought stand there alone with no audience. You'll feel a strange physical sensation when you do this, a small loosening somewhere. That's correspondence working in the opposite direction. The mind stopped repeating, the body, after a beat of confusion, stopped performing. Now the skeptic in you is rising up, and good, it deserves a hearing. You might be thinking, fine, but my condition has a name. A doctor diagnosed it. There are scans and blood work. Are you really telling me a thought caused this? And the answer is more careful than that. The Hermetic principle says the mental and the physical correspond. They move together. Genetics, environment, accidents, infections, the body you inherited, all of those are real and matter enormously. What correspondence claims is that the inner climate either amplifies or quiets whatever raw material the body was handed. The same gene expresses differently in a calm nervous system than in a hunted one. The principle is participation, not blame. That distinction matters because the goal is to hand you back the part of the equation that's actually yours, the only part you can move from the inside. Your medication can do its work, your doctor can do theirs, and you can stop adding kerosene to a fire that's already burning. The Hermetic teachers said something else worth hearing. The principle works whether you believe it or not. Gravity doesn't ask permission. Correspondence doesn't either. The thoughts you've been thinking on autopilot for 10 years have already become the body you woke up in this morning. The only question is whether you keep feeding the same loop or start composing a different one. Composition is the right word. You're writing over the old self, slowly, one assumption at a time, until the new pattern has enough mass to pull the body into orbit around it. This is what Goddard called living in the end. Living in the end means inhabiting the inner posture of a person whose body has already healed, and letting that posture become so familiar that the cells start matching it, because they couldn't help it. There's a quiet test for this. At night, before sleep, when the conscious mind softens and the body listens more closely than at any other hour, what do you let your mind do? Most people use that window to rehearse tomorrow's stress, replay today's failures, or scroll their way into someone else's nervous system. You're handing the most fertile minutes of your day to the same chronic thoughts that built the chronic symptoms. The body listens to that broadcast for 8 hours. Change the broadcast, even by a little, even for 10 minutes. Picture the body you want to inhabit as a fact already accomplished. Feel the breath of that body, the ease in its shoulders, the clarity in its gut, the lightness behind its eyes. Just rest there as if it's already true. Let that be the last station the radio plays before you sleep. Do this for a month, alongside whatever else you're doing for your health. And watch what shifts, slowly at first, then in places you weren't tracking. The principle of correspondence is patient and relentless. It works on the worried as efficiently as on the peaceful. The only variable is which signal you keep sending. So here's what's actually being asked of you. To stop volunteering for a state of mind that your body is too loyal to refuse. To notice that the inner voice you've been treating as background noise is actually the orchestra, and your symptoms are the score it's been playing. Change the conductor, and the music has no choice. The above writes the below. It has been writing it since you were small. It is writing it right now in the silence between these sentences. The pen is still in your hand. Pick a different word.